This is Masters. This is Masters. I'm such a degenerate. I play that game so much. I fucking knew this was Masters. Okay. Oh yeah, the arc suits. Okay. Oh guys, look, here's Stephen with Black Rayquaza again. Again. Okay, now you're just straight teasing. You're just straight teasing. Absolute tease with Stadium. That's twice. I bring it up and you toss it in here. Oh, not the Battle Revolution. Not the Battle Revolution tease, man. I love Battle Revolution. Oh. Okay. Oh, wait a second. Oh, man. I forget what it's called. There's an online website where people online can battle each other. I think you could use Pokemon in your own games, but I think you could pull up, like, your own teams. I forget what it's called. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. But people playing, like, literally on their PC, on a website, they use Pokemon. They just fight each other. It's just battling each other. So are we getting an actual, just... Is this like a... Maybe not a stadium. Maybe not the Battle Revolution 2. Maybe not Stadium 4 champion. Okay? Okay. You know what? Now I'm interested. Okay. Pokemon Home functionality. This feels like, yeah, this has to be like the one game where you could use any Pokemon from any of the previous generations where there's no cuts. Because it is just the battles, right? Like, theoretically speaking. Yeah, you would have to, like, doll up, like, how battles look in the presentation, but that is the core, that's just the entire game. That's not, like, you going out to a world, catching Pokemon, some weird gimmick Dynamax, Mega Evolution, bullshit, whatever. Story, characters. Alright. Finally. This is, like, the one thing I was expecting. Finally, we're getting something. They announced it an entire year ago with no update. Okay? Okay. I like their designs. I'm liking the Pro Tag designs. I'm assuming those are the Pro Tags. Oh, that's the start. There's no fucking way that's the starter lineup. That's... There's no... Dude, we went from Rowlet, Oshawott, and Cyndaquil to literally just the Johto starters, except without Cyndaquil. You have the pig from Gen 5. I'm sorry, man. This might be the worst lineup of starters the games have ever seen. Oh my... Totodile's fine. I like Feraligatr. Chikorita's based until you get to Meganium. Okay. The Megas might save the lineup. The Megas might save the starter lineup, but man. Not even my 20th pick. Ooh. Okay. AZ. Okay. Oh yeah, it's Pokemon Z. It's Pokemon Z. I always forget about Zygarde. Cause he didn't get a game.
Pokemon Legends
Yveltal and Xerneas did.
The largest city in the Kalos region. Prism Tower stands.
I feel like the presentation's better too.
Lumiose is undergoing a high-tech urban redevelopment.
Like just the shading, the lighting, the animations as a whole. It feels like it feels like it's stepped up from how the game generally looks in Scarlet and Violet. Am I crazy? The model quality too.
Tepig, and Totodile. You'll choose one of these.
They really just picked all the Johto starters and picked, and instead of the best Johto starter, they picked the worst Unova one. There's no way, dude. All right, villains. I love how huge AC. Dude is like 15, 16 feet tall. It's always so funny.
To help people and Pokemon coexist, the city has set up wild zones.
Oh wow.
These areas, located throughout
Oh wow.
wild Pokemon habitats.
So pretty much the whole game is just Lumiose City.
To catch one of these wild Pokemon,
interesting.
aim carefully, then throw a Pokeball.
I low-key kind of assumed you were going out, like, maybe not all of Kalos, but maybe, like, certain parts of it.
Use its moves to weaken the target, making it easier to catch.
Alright.
This
This looks
game offers
really,
a
really
style of
nice.
Pokemon battling not seen in previous titles. Moves can have a longer or shorter reach, or different areas of effect.
Yo, what the hell?
So choose your timing
Ooh.
and positioning carefully to gain the upper hand.
There's actual movement. There's movement options.
Lead your partner Pokemon through battles and dodge incoming attacks.
That low-key is kind of
Swap
cool.
Pokemon if you need to and find the right moment to unleash a
You
move.
actually move around with your Pokemon.
What's more, certain Pokemon can go beyond
That's a lot more
by
dynamic.
undergoing Mega Evolution.
Like, it feels like a lot more like you're in
When
the
a
actual
trainer's
battles.
Keystone resonates with the Mega Stone held by their Pokemon. the
Literally,
Pokemon
first
become
first
more
gimmick they introduced as like a big major, like the thing
It'll
going
unlock
forward for
a
the
new
franchise.
level of
They
power,
peaked at
turning
Mega
the tide
Evolutions,
of
and it's
battle
just gone
into
down
victory.
since. So thank God we're getting Megas back.
As
Mega
Pokemon
Meganium
continues its
better go hard.
transformation
Mega
into a city
Embor
that
has gotta
belongs
go
to both
hard,
people
dude.
and Pokemon,
I got
who
debated
knows
picking
what kinds of
Tepig, because
encounters
then
and
Pignite,
experiences will await.
his ugly ass, and then Embor looks lame.
Pokemon Legends ZA. Coming late 2025.
This. See, I was gonna ask, is this gonna be cross-gen? But I keep forgetting Black 2, White 2 still dropped on DS when the 3DS was a thing. Promotion match announcements. This is still ZA, right? That's it? So the Switch still has something, even when Switch 2 drops. I'm assuming around June or July. I'm predicting
That
June.
concludes our announcements for today.
I'm glad I woke up to
Thank
work
you
out
very
instead
much
of
for watching.
this. Did we get like Pikachu doing its traditional cry, Ikue Otani? I don't think we did. But yeah, no, literally like Legends Arceus set like a really good precedent for Pokemon going forward. It had its issues, but that was the most celebrated Pokemon game in a really long time. The least controversial Switch Pokemon game, I would probably say. If not, Let's Go. But like Legends Arceus, the whole like open world type of angle, it was a very different from your traditional Pokemon experience, even though it's a core game. Just you going around these worlds, actually trying to interact and sneak up on catching Pokemon just constantly over and over, the pacing of the overall game, the structure. Battles still being important, but like clearly taking a step back in being the focus of these games, at least the Legends games. Legends Arceus was in what the whoa! I'm rewatching the trailer while I'm talking. What the hell was that? Dude, your player character did like this weird zipline jump thing across I missed that the first time. They did this weird zipline jump thing across the rooftops. But you didn't even see a zipline. That's crazy. So it does look like stuff is taking place in the future. The protagonists look older, a lot like how Caleb and Serena looked like your older protagonist than your usual fare with the protagonists in Pokemon games. Yeah, no, Legends EA is not disappointing at all. Visually, too, I shouldn't give Pokemon too much credit in terms of graphics and visuals and presentation, right? They've been the laughingstock with graphics ever since Sword and Shield with the Polygon N64 trees, right? I shouldn't give them too much credit, but I do think this game has a stronger art direction than Scarlet and Violet did, which, I get it, Scarlet and Violet's, that's like bottom of the barrel if we're talking visual direction, because even, I think Sword and Shield art direction, like Sword and Shield doesn't look the best, right? Especially compared to every other first-party game on Switch, besides like maybe Fire Emblem Three Houses, doesn't matter. Scarlet and Violet's like bottom of the barrel. It looks worse. It's probably the worst looking Pokemon game on Switch, low key. And even then, a lot of Pokemon games on Switch do not look good. I think Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is the best looking one. Like that game did have a defined art style. It looked really polished, really colorful. This game though, low key, if we factor out Let's Go, this might be best looking Pokemon game on Switch. It's a little up in the air. It's a touchy subject because like Pokemon, their priorities, how the games look, how much they rush these games out. But this game seems to be the longest developed Pokemon game. Yeah, no, they probably started developing this game around the time Scarlet and Violet dropped, maybe when they were almost done with the game. You know Pokemon and Game Freak and the Pokemon Company. They always keep pumping out these games on a regular release cycle, constantly. Every 2 to 3 years, it's always some new Pokemon thing. We haven't gotten Gen 10 yet. I think this game is the longest developed Pokemon game so far. Even if it is, it might not be by much, because Scarlet and Violet dropped November 2022, DLC 2023, 2024? I don't think Pokemon had a big thing in 2024. I don't remember. Yeah, no, as far as mainline or big, like, released Pokemon games, I don't think they had anything in 2024. And this game's dropping probably towards, like, November this year. So, like, it's probably still the same development cycle, more or less, as most other Pokemon games, but it's probably on the longer end. It might be the longest. It might have taken the longest time for them to develop this game, but even if it did, probably not by a whole lot, probably by like a couple of months. Still, though, I do think it is showing more like they are trying to approach, just going for a higher standard of quality, at least more than they have with the last couple Pokemon games. And like, I'm not saying like Pokemon's been like in an absolute like dog shit rut, but I have made a video talking about how they, like, these games are not benefiting with the structure they've been adhering to for pretty much the last 20, almost 30 years now. Just releasing a new type of Pokemon game every 1 to 2 years. It's finally catching up with them, just with how much more expensive, how much more higher scope, how much more expensive developing games has become, them jumping over to HD consoles, just jumping over to the Switch. They low-key had an advantage having the series largely be on handhelds for the longest time, because it was cheaper hardware, it was less powerful, they could adhere to a schedule, because like, it's not easy developing a game, but it was probably a lot easier developing these games with the sprite-based artwork, smaller maps, smaller scope, and being able to keep all the Pokemon in these games for as long as they have, just because of the hardware and how much cheaper it was to develop for the DS, the 3DS, and the Game Boy and whatnot. With the Switch, we've seen years ago, that model is not going to keep them going for much longer. Like, they've gotten a lot of pushback with Sword and Shield, cutting out all the Pokemon, and then Sword and Shield onwards, games just looking worse and worse, running worse and worse. Legends Arceus, banger game, but it didn't run the best. Scarlet and Violet run like absolute dog shit. There's a lot of good gameplay stuff and elements and characters. The terraforming mechanic was probably the best new gimmick they've introduced in these games since Mega Evolution. But the crux of, or like the biggest thing against Scarlet and Violet was those games just running horribly. Very, very horribly. And this game's I could see it probably still... I'm assuming it's going to run better than Scarlet and Violet. Again, bottom of the barrel in like visuals, but also performance. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that's crazy about all this too. I'm saying all this stuff about like bad performance, bad visuals, and like the quality problem Pokemon's had pretty much since the Switch started. And like there's still really good Pokemon games on the system. Scarlet and Violet, Legends Arceus. There's a lot of talking points and a lot of different subjects you gotta talk about if you're talking about the Switch era of Pokemon, which kind of says something in of itself. But the thing that none of that matters. None of that matters. It's like, oh, these games could be better. They should be better. They could run better. They could have like more fleshed out characters, story. Scarlet and Violet literally has like a lot of things checked off, a lot of good stuff going for it. Literally just like visuals and just how the game runs. Some people also experience like crashing and actual bugs and whatnot. Game is really buggy, but doesn't even matter. These games sell so stupidly well. Outside of Gen 1, right? The Switch, like Gen 8 and 9, fastest selling Pokemon games, like I think the best selling generations. Yep. Gold, Silver, 23 mil, Ruby, Sapphire. Like you have to factor the remakes and the third versions, Emerald, Yellow. You have to factor those third generations when you're talking about overall sales of multiple generations, because it's Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Gen 8 and 9 didn't have any of that. X and Y were the only ones for a good while that didn't have a third version or anything extra for Gen 6, besides like Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, but those are remakes of Gen 3. Sword and Shield, pretty much all on its own, over 26 million units. Skyline and Violet, same deal. Like, these games are the fastest selling Pokemon games. They are the best selling Pokemon games since the originals. I want these games to at least run better and be better than how they actually are. Don't get me wrong. My point is, like, they have no incentive, ultimately, because these games are just going to sell really well. All of that said, I do see the attempts. I do see them trying. They are visibly trying. I'm loving the designs of the protagonists. Banger designs on a lot of the side characters and NPCs they talked about. They are trying to see how they can improve the overall gameplay element. Like, being able to move around with your Pokemon in the middle of battle, that's literally what the anime does. That's literally, like, what characters in the anime, like Ash and his companions and whatnot, they do that all the time in the show. So seeing that in the actual games, not just the characters statically standing in one spot as both Pokemon attack one another in the same spot like you always see pretty much every single Pokemon game prior. I think that is going to be it sounds like a small thing, but I think it's going to add just enough to really make the battles feel way more dynamic. Now, like, speed is going to be a bigger factor in Pokemon battles, not just in which Pokemon can move first, but also which ones can dodge attacks. Like, you have actual dodging in the mainline games. You don't have to bank off just spamming double team or moves that raise your evasiveness. Now you can actually say, go this way, dodge. Like, that's really cool. I think that's really cool. And of course, it's Pokemon Z. It's a game revisiting Kalos, the region that introduced Mega Evolution. The best gimmick, pretty much, in my opinion. We're bound to get new Mega Evolutions. So I'm hoping the Mega Evolutions for our starter trio really carry the starter trio, because I'm gonna be dead. I'm gonna be dead ass, dude. I like the starting forms for the Johto starters. I don't like all of their middle and final stage evolutions. I like Cyndaquil, I like Quilava and Typhlosion. I like Totodile and Feraligatr. Croconaw okay. Chikorita's cute. Bayleef's kind of iconic, mainly from the anime. I don't give a shit about Meganium, bro. But this game, they didn't even... It's basically the Johto trio. And it's not... Without Cyndaquil. It's the Johto trio, except instead of Cyndaquil, they picked the worst starter from Gen 5. I picked Tepig when I played Black for the first time. Look at that, he evolved into another fire fighting type. And it's the worst looking one by far. Cool, he learned Head Smash. I don't care, bro. Samurai and Superior are way cooler. I better see, like, Emboar, like, a beefy, buff, skinnier. I better see Meganium get a cool Mega Evolution. I better see Feraligatr get a cool Mega Evolution. Maybe even a regional form, because they're definitely going to have regional forms in this game, too. Okay. Regional forms, I think, are going to be a thing in this game. I feel like they're going to have to lean towards one or the other. I don't think there's going to be that many Pokemon. They're going to have both a regional form and a Mega Evolution. Really thinking about it, I think they're going to have to lean one or the other. And revisiting Mega Evolution, they're definitely going to lean more on Mega Evolution than regional forms. Probably. We're still probably going to get some new Pokemon, some older Pokemon get regional variants, though. I could still see that. Yeah, your rival character looks sick, too. I think you could choose which one to. The way Lumio City looks as a whole. The one benefit they do have when they made the jump to Switch with increasing the scope is just trying to sell harder than ever that these games are trying to go in a much bigger, grander direction. Lumio City looks really, really nice in this game. I didn't think it would just be Lumio City, as big as it is, because Lumio City was always really massive, but it really looks like, at least for the vast majority of the game, maybe you'll experience, like, some places slightly outside of Lumio City. Yeah, no, the vast majority of it's just going to be in the city itself. I feel like they'll spice up, like, some biomes and some places, certain subsections of the city overall. I could see them spicing it up enough just because Lumio City is... It always was that huge. X and Y wasn't able to sell the scope as to how insanely huge it was, because I think you can only explore half the city in that game. The other half was always blocked off. You can never explore the other half of it. So now I get to explore the entire city itself. I low-key think, as far as games go, I think Smash sold Lumio City's scope a lot better, just with how far you could fly around the city and the stage. and how much of the city you could see when you're on top of Prism Tower. Yeah, no, the only thing I'm being snarky about is just the starter trio. There's so many better starters you could have picked. It's like, yeah, we're done with Gen 1 pandering. It's time for Gen 2. Cool. I was never a big fan of the Gen 2 starters to begin with, though. That's my thing. That's my only thing. Late this year is also interesting. It's not interesting from the angle that they always drop their games during the holiday. But they're still tagging this game as a Switch release. So the Switch is going to have a game way into later this year still. Switch 2, I'm like fully believe Switch 2 is going to drop around June or July. Somewhere early summer. And yet by the time this game drops, we're probably going to have like a decent number of games for Switch 2 already. And I don't think this game's going to be cross-gen. I always forgot. Now I think they're going to do the same thing they did with Black 2 White 2. But like they introduced like a sequel to Gen 5. They dropped the game when the 3DS was already on the market. I think they're pretty much going to do the same thing with this game. Kind of makes sense. It is interesting to see the Switch still get something when the Switch 2 is going to be on the market, and when Nintendo is pretty much going to try and push Switch 2 full throttle everywhere by that point. It's interesting. Definitely the most hyped I've been for a Pokemon game. Probably in a good while, when you factor out Legends Arceus, but even when you do, like, at least the Legends games are putting Pokemon in a much more interesting direction, on a much more interesting path that would actually evolve the Pokemon formula. I kind of assumed they would do the original styles, because there was like a different style of battling in Legends Arceus. I thought they were going to bring that back here. Now it's this movement-based style where you could pivot and move your own Pokemon and move them in different directions and positions to dodge attacks and move around and whatnot. That's still cool. That's still interesting. Game looks great. Game looks great. Game Freak, Pokemon Company. Take as much time as you need, man. You don't gotta rush these games out all the time. You don't have to. Yeah, you had a schedule to adhere to with like the games, the anime, the card game, merchandise. The anime is doing its own thing now. So now you kind of don't have to do that anymore, at least not entirely, you know? The fans want you to at least slow down. The fans want these games to be better. But also most don't care because these games sell like over 20 bajillion copies. So these people are just going to eat up these games no matter what you do. Either way, I appreciate the attempt at trying to make these games a lot better. They are trying to evolve these gameplay formulas. Small ways, still ways all the same. They're still trying to see what they could do with the limited time they have. I respect it. I appreciate it. Could be a lot better. Don't get me wrong. They are still trying though. Pokemon Legends ZA. Pokemon Z. Game looks pretty good. My GOAT AZ. Still looking like he's 20 feet tall. Love it. That's my GOAT. Give me your thoughts on this in the comments below. Legends ZA, the release date, everything we got so far. Dude, imagine if we got Megas for the Sinnoh starters. Dude, imagine if we got Megas for like the Gen 7 Pokemon. I know they used Rowlet in Legends Arceus. Mega Primarina low-key would be kind of sick. Oh, please. Okay, I have one thing I want from this game. Of all the Pokemon to get Megas, I would love if we got Mega Flygon. Flygon deserves a Mega Evolution. Salamence was the pseudo. Flygon is my favorite, though. My favorite dragon from Gen 3. Oh, I really hope... Oh, God. It's a Game Freak, Pokemon Company, please. There's probably going to be a good chunk of new Mega Evolutions in this game. Please tell me you at least considered Mega Flygon. Oh. I'd be really hype. I would be so hype if Flygon got one. Okay. I'm out. Stay super.
Yo, hey, 妹妹，嘿，我来呀！不，共和到哈哈呀！拉面，嘿，来面，来个面，共和再见呀！哈哈，拉面，酱小面，谢谢。